AI agent burns hundreds of dollars just to get a single task done because they're continuously iterating, they're looping through their own process. Why is it happening? Mainly because they're trying to figure out how to do the task all by themselves from scratch. That's what AI agents are doing. So workflows are still the core system of how we have to build applications, because first, they're totally deterministic and have proper guardrails on how to build. And for this, you have to understand when to use a workflow, compare that, and when to use an agent. So firstly, coming to the first point of today's video is how do we determine when to use a workflow, when to use an agent, and what are the main differences between a workflow and an agent. So workflow can mainly be thought of in a way like train tracks. We have proper track of from which point to which point, how it is going, what are the stations in between. So maybe the station is, so step A can be to extract the data from the PDF that is given. Step B, which is to ask the LLM to generate a structured output. So maybe I can give a PDF of my invoice and then tell it to give the structured analysis of the invoice. That is one thing that we can do. And step C can be to store it in the database. So we have three clear steps that are happening in this process, in which first, we're not completely being dependent on AI. The AI is just a plugin in the system that we have built. That is what we are doing here. Compare that to when we are using AI agents. So AI agents are like an off-road vehicle. They can do what they want. What we do in AI agents is there is an LLM. So it is like me. So what we're trying to do with an agent is more like a person. So he's a person who has knowledge. He has a brain. He can go and access tools. He can access resources, knowledge, and then he has to figure out a way to get the output that you are asking for. So one problem we have here is incomplete knowledge, insufficient knowledge, which can cause a lot of hallucinations first thing, and it can cost you a lot of money, not in terms of just the agent trying to figure out how the task is done, but also the agent trying to get the right output. If it gets the wrong output, it is again going to cost you money. So these are two. Everything is predictable. You can trace out where the logic is going wrong, and then you can improve it. So what do I do with agents in specific? What I've told you right now is how simple agents work. So the best thing that you can do to an AI agent, which is point 2, is give it skills. What are skills in this sense? Skills are procedural knowledge. So as I told before, let's say there is some task which is going to take some 20 steps, some other process like data analysis, for example, in which you have to first look at the data, extract everything from the input file, which is CSV file, and understand the different structure. So one thing I can do is, rather than building the whole workflow, I can give the agent a skill.md file, which is a file where I give it instructions on what exactly is to be, what is the procedure of doing this task. So I will make an agent in specific for doing data analysis, and then give in the skill.md file the each step in the procedure. So what are the steps in the procedure for doing data analysis? First, I'll go and extract data. So I'll insert each and every single point in it, and then explain it exactly what it has to do. So I'm giving it the procedural knowledge that is required. So one thing the LLM does not have in its pre-trained data is how to do this specific task. You're giving that information to it, and then it can execute. But there's still problem. There can still be hallucinations. So how do we actually make it work? One thing that we have to remember is, irrespective of whether we're using an AI agent or a workflow, if you're able to convert a system or a process into a workflow rather than an agent, it is always better to stick with an workflow. So for most of the steps in your process, and just switch to the AI agent when there is a deterministic, undeterministic part, which is you don't know the expected output. There are many edge cases. So this is when we come to the hybrid approach, which is the point 3. In hybrid approach, this is what we have to do. Inside the workflow, we are going to plug in the agent at a point where there is a need of it. For example, let's take customer service, where all the initial steps of getting to know the customer are done by the workflow, whereas negotiating the price is done by the agent. One more thing that we do is that give agent workflow as a tool. So now in the workflow, there's an agent that is present, and now this agent, which is negotiating agent, can call another workflow to generate the invoice. So now the answers are more predictable, deterministic, and are highly accurate. This is what we need to understand. So the summary here is, you should know when exactly your workflow, which is try to automate as much as you can using a workflow rather than an agent. Whereas agent is going to cost you because it has iterating loops or it has to call different tools. But in a workflow, everything is deterministic and you can do it. And the best way to do all of it is using a hybrid approach. And that is it for today. Thank you. Bye.